and I would not be doing this without my wife, Leslie, who's right here. So you have me up here because she didn't accept mediocrity from me. She wanted me to be the best person that I could possibly be. And that's what we all need to do right now, because we have some challenges in this country. And we don't have the type of representation that we need. We have some deep-seated economic challenges to where we're struggling to make ends meet. And we don't have the type of representation that we need. We have challenges where people are losing their jobs because of the decisions that are over their personal bodies. And we don't have the representation that we need. A couple years ago, I started this publication called The Pamphlet. And my goal back then was to try and teach our children our true history. We figured that if our children don't save this country, they will surely be the orchestrators of its demise. And we don't teach our children our history, we don't teach our children their rights, and we don't teach our children their responsibilities to stand up for those rights. So we started this process, and we started handing out this publication called The Pamphlet. You may have seen it. It's in Okanogan County, Ferry County, 2 other counties we handed out for free. We just started it 2 years ago, and we decided, hey, we're gonna hand this out and we're gonna use authentic sources. We tell the story of like a 16-year-old girl named Sybil Luddington. She rode twice as far as Paul Revere. Not that we wanna minimize Paul, he's a stand-up guy, I'm sure, but there was a 16-year-old girl who saved our nation. What little girl doesn't need to hear that right now? We use authentic sources from common everyday people who wrote their stories down, and we try and retell that story. Certainly we talk about the important people that we all know, Thomas Jefferson, Adams. Those people had their places, but who saved this country, who established this country was you, we the people. And we need to remember, and we need to have politicians that remember that this country is of the people, by the people, and for the people. What that means specifically is enshrined in our Washington State Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, all political power is inherent in the people. That's all. There is no other. So if I don't have the power to tell you to sit down, shut up, stay home, put this mask on and stick this in your arm, neither does our government. We need to understand that we have liberty and responsibility within our own realm, and our government is not our nannies. Our representatives are not our bosses. We, the people, are bosses. And when we don't have representatives who understand that and understand the basic fundamentals of the Constitution, doesn't matter if they have an R or a D behind their name, they're not our person. We need to be asking different questions. How do you like the Constitution? What do you think about the Constitution? What do you think about parents' rights? What do you think about liberty? What do you think about the personal opportunity to spend our own wealth our own way, to establish our own businesses without government interference? These are fundamental questions we need to start asking about what type of people we're going to elect as our representatives. Do they represent me? Do they represent Bob across the street? Do they represent the homeless person over there? Do they represent the Mennonite who's not allowed to participate in the political process because of their faith? Do we have representatives who are out there seeking to find out what it is that you want? This district was just redistricted, and it encompasses 7 counties. It's the largest geographically in the state, the 11th largest in the nation. The only way that I can see how to actually represent this is to have a town hall in every single one of those 7 counties every single month, so that I'm available to you, because that's what it would take to represent you. You have to have access to your representative. You have to be able to come here and say, this is how I want you to vote. Because I'm the type of representative that doesn't want to get up there in the ivory tower and say, look, they voted for me, it's up to me to decide. I reject that mentality. And I think each and every one of us should reject that mentality for all of our elected officials. They're representatives. So when we decide to represent and run for office, we need to keep in mind that we represent the people. That's why I'm standing here with Jon, because I honestly believe that he wants to represent you. He wants to serve you. He wants to bring your ideas and your mentality to the table. That's what representation is. So when we get behind people like this, we're ensuring that for our children's future, we're installing a representative government. And whenever we don't have it, we have a duty and an obligation to stand up. I'm a pig farmer. I'm a disabled veteran. And 10 years ago, I was homeless. Don't tell me the American dream is not possible. Don't tell me it's not possible to rebuild your life after you've had a stroke. Don't tell me it's impossible to rebuild this country after we've flushed it down the toilet. We need this type of leadership that's not afraid to quit. We need this type of leadership that is not afraid to say, we can do better. We need this type of leadership to say, I'm going to do what the people ask me to do. So I'd appreciate if you take a look at my campaign, take a look at the opponent's campaign. Decide who it is that's going to represent you, the person, the individual, your needs, your wants, your desires. My number one platform issue is parents are the primary stakeholders in our children's lives. If we don't have politicians that can't agree that parents have the right to raise their children in their own ways, tradition and faith, what else are we standing for? Doesn't matter how expensive or how cheap gas is. Doesn't matter what NFL game is on or what game that you guys want to see. Doesn't matter if The Bachelor's still airing. Doesn't matter if you can still order Domino's. If you can't raise your children in your own ways and traditions, what are we fighting for? The number two thing on my campaign list is to make sure that education dollars follows the student. We have $18,000 per student that is spent in this state. Every time the money goes up, the test scores go down. Why are we doing the same thing? I want to make sure that that $18,000, or as much as is possible, goes to the parent. They get to decide where the education of their children is. Want to go to private school? Fine, the money goes there. Want to go to public school? Fine. Charter school? Great. Co-op? Fine. Homeschool? Yep, you get $18,000. How many moms are working 3-4 jobs to send their kids to daycare, to send their kids to public school, and hardly get to spend any time with them? $18,000 per student? Gee, hon, maybe one of us can stay home and raise that kid. And I bet you do a heck of a lot better job than the people who are teaching them now. How do I know that? Because I did that. 3 years ago, we pulled our children out of school and we saw all the disgusting things that we're teaching them. Our child was an A, B student. Every year went by, great grades. Couldn't read, couldn't write, couldn't do math, didn't know history. Unbelievable, A and B student. We had to homeschool our child and take them back to the beginning. And now they not only know how to read, they not only know how to write, they not only know their history, they're a president of a Turning Point USA activist hub. Why? Not because we told them, but because we empowered them. We allowed our children to be the best thing that they could be. And that's what I encourage each one of you to do. To allow your children to be the best thing that you can be, to allow you to be the best people that you can be, and to allow you the liberty and freedom to live your lives without government getting involved. And that's why I'm running, and that's why I'm standing with Jon. Thank you very much.